Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Talking Real Estate with Champions Real Estate Team here at Berkshire Hathaway Home Service Ambassador Real Estate Company. My name is Mark Wehner II, team leader here at Champions Real Estate Team. Joining me today is Russ Williams with Williams Mortgage. So we always jump on here on Wednesday, different times of the day. Today was our first day of school for our kiddos. So we had a preschooler and a first grader. So I'm jumping on here a little bit early. Usually we go over to lunch hour, but now I'm going to be picking up our daughter at preschool at like 11:30. So it kind of throws a little wrench in the mix here. So, welcome back to all the school for everybody for that side. So it's an exciting time, and come home and you're like, oh my goodness, I got 5 minutes of peace and quiet for a little bit. So, anyways, we always like to start off with like our quick tips here. I'll just talk about the real estate market in just a second. So, one of the things maybe you guys have seen, across, social media, in the news, all that kind of fun stuff was the National Association of Realtors, and the settlement and the lawsuit that was happening, in Missouri. So some of those settlement things took effect as of this last Saturday on August 17th. So if you are a member as a realtor, as a member of the National Association, in order to part of that settlement is in order to show a house, you have to enter into an exclusive buyer agency agreement with a realtor, which is good. It's all transparency. And I think all that stuff basically. So you are signing a contract essentially to work with that one agent, for all your real estate needs. So the thing I always say is, what value is the realtor that you're working with bringing to the table? And that's the number one thing. Are you comfortable with that value, and all that good stuff. So I know that the agents here on Champions Real Estate Team, we, are hugely, proponents of value and educating you, coaching you. That's why we do these videos. We want to sit down with you and go over everything so that why you're buying, what you're buying, and does it make sense for you, and and protecting you as far as from a negotiation standpoint. Because a lot of things right now is if you don't have an agent to go show you, you would basically have the listing agent show you that property, and essentially that listing agent has a fiduciary responsibility to the seller. So they have a legal responsibility to do what's in the best interest of their client, the seller. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're unrepresented as a customer, so you can enter in, and do a contract with them and be a customer where, they're not going to give you advice on pricing or negotiations or when it comes to home inspections, and all that kind of fun stuff, whether you should do one, not do one, so it's always a great thing to have somebody in your corner advocating for you, because going out and showing houses, that's the fun part. Obviously the whole job's fun, but that's, going out looking at houses and finding that right one. But once that thing's under contract and negotiating it to get it under contract, then keeping that house, throughout the entire, all the way till closing, that's where the devil's in the details type of thing, comes into play. So, ultimately, basically moving forward, and I think it's a good change in our industry. I think transparency is always a great thing. Anytime I've worked with any of my clients, I'm like, hey, this is, how do we get paid? Do we write you a check? With the, how it's typically been done, is a cooperating broker commission has basically been built into the purchase price of the house. Essentially, that seller's allowing that buyer to finance that, real estate commission into the purchase price of the house. We can go more in detail of it, but that's basically the gist of it. And I'm happy to sit down and explain. I know my dad and I, we teach at Results Coaching School of Real Estate. We've had the Norfolk Board, the Columbus Board of Realtors, Grand Island have reached out to us here at the school and are like, hey, we need to educate our agents on how this is all playing out. And so, that's why we're very, advocates of, that transparency side of it, making sure everyone knows exactly what's going on in that process. So that's what we're here for, is to answer questions, and ultimately be the best real estate agent that we can be, and what better than working with somebody that's actually teaching the other agents on how this whole thing's playing out, in that regard. So if you are, if you're working with another agent, that's great. But just make sure that what value are they bringing? And if somebody asks you to enter into, into that exclusive buyer agency agreement, that's something that every agent is going to be asking, because it's, our level of commitment is going to match your level of commitment to us, our level of commitment is going to match the level, vice versa, because we don't, as agents, that's how we earn our living, just like anybody else in any service profession, out there. So, we're happy to help, educate you through that process, and go from there. So, so that's kind of the general gist. I'll probably do more of an in-depth video on kind of how it all plays out, but I know that's something that's been in the media. I think Channel 7, KETV did a story on it. And just making sure you're getting good information, rather than just the social media talking heads out there, and all that good stuff. So I have no problem with it. I think it's a great thing. I think that transparency side of it, and just how that business, because it was always kind of confusing. I think even when I explained it, to my clients, well, how do you get paid? Well, it goes through this, and they're like, oh, we'll go look at houses. And so we just want to make sure everyone's on the up and up on that. So, but all right, rock and roll with the market. So obviously school just went back. My daughters went to school today. I know Millard and stuff started last week. So we're kind of seeing that. This time is usually one of those times in the marketplace where it kind of just takes a little bit of a breather out there. So we had 513 new listings go live in the last 7 days, 386 new contracts, and 378 happy new homeowners. Hopefully they got in before all the kids had to start school and all that good stuff, got settled, or at least the kids are at school, and then you can get settled in your house. So all that good stuff. So what do we have? We had about 541 new listings go live last week. And we actually had more contracts get written this week, about 30 or so more on that new contracts written. So market's still moving. And Russ will probably talk about it. I know the Feds are meeting next month. They're predicting 0.25%, is roughly what they're kind of baking in, into the market, into the rates, in there. So we're kind of just in the low sixes. So we're down about 1% over the last couple of months. So as we talked last week, I think 10% purchasing power increase for those buyers in there. So let's look at the 30,000 foot view. Click on this one. So 30,000 foot view, we got 3,243 homes. I think last week it was 3,234. So we just kind of inverted those numbers there. As far as the number of listings in the Omaha and Lincoln, 1930 is in Douglas Sarpy County. And then we got 973 existing homes on the market. And then we got 957 new construction, 2.5 months supply of inventory. And that average sold price is basically that 340. That's kind of where we've been at the last couple of weeks. And that's basically for the entire year. So that's from January to August is where we're at, that 348. When you just looked at August, I looked at those numbers, that was at 361. So that's in August. We're at 361. So you may see other agents that put different numbers out there, and it's good to know where their numbers are coming from. So my numbers here, that 348 is basically from January 1, to August 21st. What's our average sold price this entire year is at 348, and then the what's your buckets for the average sold price just in August for the last 20 days is at 361. So prices have increased in there, and all that good stuff. So that's what we're kind of looking at for number wise. These numbers, like I say every week, don't change that much. This is the numbers that I feel like the media, the social, the press will use. But I feel like our first slide really gives an indication of how many houses are coming on the market, how many houses are going off the market, and we're kind of seeing the actual activity of the market. This is just kind of a snapshot, 30,000 foot view. But, like I said, I think it's still a great time buy and sell, keeping that pedal to the metal with regards to that, and how, with interest rates are being more affordable, and, getting out there and, those housing prices, obviously we talk about every week, more buyers went to the market, simple supply and demand, and all that good stuff. But if you need any resources, check out our championsrealestateteam.com website. That we have our vendor list on there. So if you're looking for different, I just added one. Mike Prines is an electrician, starting his own company. So, he's out there hungry for business. And All Current is his company name. So his information is up there on there as well. And then, if you need any other of those kind of vendors, if you need homeowners insurance, I got our agent that I personally use, Cindy with the United Insurance Agencies. And then ultimately, if you need a mortgage, give Russ Williams a holler. He's the man, the myth, the legend in the mortgage world. So let's touch base, see what's going on in the mortgage world. How are we doing, Russ?
Doing pretty well, Mark. You're exactly right. Mortgage rates have improved a little bit from where they were, and that's in response to some little bit tamer economic reports on inflation. Last week, we got a little bit hotter than expected numbers for retail sales and a few other reports that kind of put a damper on rates. They moved back up a little bit from where they were the week before, and that's really not unexpected given that a lot of folks take their vacations during the month of July and spend a little bit of money. So that could be why retail sales was up. But as you mentioned, Mark, the media is talking about a lot of things right now, not the least of which is, and we'll see an increased coverage of this, that that rates may come back down. And it's important that we understand the difference between what the Fed controls and what the market in general controls. And let me explain that briefly. When the Federal Reserve Bank or the Fed meets, they make decisions about short-term interest rates. These short-term rates are like the rates that banks would charge each other for short-term loans and have direct influence on things like credit cards, student loans, and auto loans. Mortgage rates work differently in that instead of being directed by the Fed, mortgage rates are influenced by the bond market, which is where people buy and sell long-term investments. If those of you that have retirement accounts, you probably own some bonds. The bond market is often trying to guess what the Fed is going to do before it actually happens. So right now, the bond market generally has already priced in, as you pointed out, the expectation that the Fed is going to lower rates by a small amount, that 0.25% that you mentioned at the next meeting in September 17th and 18th. So mortgage rates are already adjusted, taking that into account. So unless the Fed would surprise everyone and cut rates by more than 0.5%, mortgage rates may not drop much. In fact, it's even possible, depending upon what the rhetoric is following that meeting in September, the rates could actually move up a little bit, believe it or not. So in short, mortgage rates are like weather forecast. They adjust based upon what the predictions and the forecast are for the market, as opposed to an actual action that the Fed has. So keep that in mind for those of you that are sitting on the fence, that there's no better time than the present to jump into the market now. If we do happen to see rates drop down, and Mark has pointed this out many times, it's quite likely that we'll pull more people off the fence, meaning more competition for you to buy homes, and that could actually put upward pressure on on home prices. So get a hold of Mark and his team now before the winter.
Yep. And the other side note is we're heading in, obviously most people know we're in an election cycle, and so typically, I think I've talked about this before. I think I've been through 4 election cycles in my 16 years here in the business. Basically, I think market is kind of, so people are like, oh my gosh, who's going to get in the office? It doesn't matter. In all honesty, it's like, if people wait, oh, there's uncertainty, the world's going to end if whoever gets in the office and, in the presidential side of it. So honestly, that really doesn't play. And I think in my mind, if I'm buying or so, I'm going to be, as a buyer, I'm going to be out there actively searching for those houses. If people are going to be on the sidelines and get a good price on those houses and things like that, potentially, and a fair price from that perspective of it. So, and I know, yeah. And then other thing we got coming up. So we got a new listing going live. Jeff on our team here is going to have about 25 acres going up on the market on Friday. So just west of Blair by about a couple miles off of Highway 91. I think it's County Road 29. So it'll be about, I think, a little over 25 acres out there be on the market. So great little area, all that good stuff. So you're close to the city of Blair and all that good stuff. So if you have questions on that, give us a holler. My number's down here, 672-7670, or reach out to Jeff Peterson, who will be the listing agent on that coming up here on Friday. So I think we got the drone pictures done this week, all that good stuff. So and I just got a website for it. So acreagelotinfo.com. So once we get the pictures and stuff, we'll get all that stuff, the information for there. So, but anyways, we might preview that next Wednesday if it's still on the market. So, but anyways, take care. If you have questions, give us a holler. Happy to help. 672-7670. Give Russ a holler, 290-8936. And we'll rock and roll through the